The alien crowd laughed as the guards dragged the human forward. They did not know this yet, but in less than 1 hour, the fate of an entire courtroom would collapse because of a single choice he had made in the rain. 3 nights earlier, the rain had fallen sideways on Krillin Station, a floating megacity suspended above a gas giant. Neon signs flickered through the storm, reflecting off metal walkways and transparent streets. The station never slept, and neither did its dangers. Humans were rare here, tolerated, useful, but never trusted. Evan Cole, a human maintenance engineer, moved quickly through the crowd, pulling his hood tighter. At 38, his life had been reduced to survival contracts and quiet compliance. He fixed things no one else wanted to touch: air recyclers, waste conduits, power relays. He kept his head down. That was how humans survived among stronger, older species. A sharp cry cut through the noise. Evan stopped. Across the street, a tall alien woman stumbled as a small, reptilian figure tore a metallic satchel from her side and vanished into the crowd. The woman fell to one knee, rain soaking her pale silver robes. Her glowing amber eyes followed the thief in shock, but no one else reacted. On Krillin Station, theft was entertainment if the victim was unlucky enough. Evan hesitated. Helping meant attention. Attention meant records. Records meant trouble. Then he saw the woman's hands shaking. With a quiet curse, Evan ran. His boots slipped on the wet surface as he pushed through bodies twice his size. The thief darted into a maintenance corridor, narrow, unlit, dangerous. Evan followed without thinking, adrenaline burning away fear. The corridor ended in a sealed bulkhead. The thief spun around, hissed, and raised a shock blade. Evan didn't fight like an alien. He fought like a human. He grabbed a loose cable from the wall, yanked it free, and slammed it into the floor conduit. Sparks exploded. The sudden light blinded the thief for half a second, long enough. Evan tackled him, slammed him into the wall, and twisted the blade from his grip. The thief fled, screeching into the darkness. Evan stood there, breathing hard, rain dripping from his hair. The satchel lay at his feet. Minutes later, he returned it to the woman beneath a shelter dome. She stood straighter now, composed, her silver skin faintly glowing beneath the station lights. Up close, Evan realized she was not just important, she was dangerous in a quiet, controlled way. "You did not have to intervene," she said, her voice calm and precise. "I know," Evan replied. "But it felt wrong not to." She studied him carefully, as if recording something invisible. "You are human." "Yeah. Sorry about that." A flicker, almost a smile, passed across her face. She took the satchel. "This object contains sensitive material. You may have saved more than you realize." Evan shrugged. "Glad it helped." She hesitated, then added, "What is your name?" "Evan Cole." She nodded once. Then remember this moment, Evan Cole. Before he could ask what she meant, she turned and disappeared into the rain. 2 days later, Evan's door exploded inward. Security drones flooded his small apartment, red lights flashing. He barely had time to raise his hands before restraints locked around his wrists. "Evan Cole," a metallic voice announced. "You are charged with sabotage of interstellar infrastructure." "What?" Evan protested. "I fix systems. I don't sabotage them." He was dragged through the city, past staring faces, into the tribunal spire, a towering structure of crystal and alloy where laws were decided without mercy. Humans rarely entered this place unless they were being erased from society. The courtroom was massive. Tiered seats curved upward, filled with alien observers. Evan stood alone at the center platform, rain-stained and furious. The charge was red. A reactor failure. A power blackout. A forged data trail leading directly to his ID. Evan's mind raced. Someone had framed him. But no human's word outweighed alien data. The room fell silent. "All rise," the herald announced. The judge entered. Evan froze. It was her. The silver-skinned woman from the rain. Now she wore ceremonial robes etched with glowing symbols of authority. Her presence silenced the entire chamber. She sat, her expression unreadable. "Judge Celera von Presiding," the herald declared. Evan's heart pounded. She looked down at him. Recognition flashed in her amber eyes, for just a fraction of a second. Then it vanished. The prosecution spoke confidently. Evidence was absolute. Human error was statistically consistent. Evan felt the weight of the system pressing down on him. When it was time for his defense, Evan stepped forward. "I didn't sabotage anything," he said simply. "But 2 nights ago, I stopped a theft. I was on Lower Walkway 7. In the rain." A ripple moved through the courtroom. Celera's fingers tightened on the bench. "You claim an alibi?" she asked. "Yes," Evan said quietly. "The woman I helped was there." Silence. Celera stood. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "I confirm his statement." Gasps erupted. 2 nights ago," she continued, "this human returned my satchel. The timing makes the charges against him impossible." The prosecution protested. The crowd roared. Celera raised her hand, and the room obeyed. "Case dismissed," she said. "The evidence is fabricated." Evan's restraints unlocked. As he stumbled free, Celera met his eyes once more. This time, there was no doubt. She knew exactly who he was. And far above the courtroom, unseen eyes watched, already planning how to make the human who embarrassed the system disappear forever. Evan Cole did not celebrate his freedom. As he walked out of the tribunal spire, the air felt heavier than before. Not because of gravity or pressure fields, but because he could feel eyes on him. Krillin Station had a way of reminding humans that mercy was temporary and justice was negotiable. The crowd outside parted as he passed. Some aliens looked annoyed. Others looked curious. A few looked angry. Humans were not supposed to win inside that building. A security drone hovered close to Evan's shoulder, scanning his biometrics one final time before disengaging. "You are released," it said flatly. "Further incidents may result in permanent removal from the station." "Yeah," Evan muttered. "Good talk." Rain began again, light but persistent. Evan pulled his hood up and started walking, unsure where he was going. His apartment was compromised now. His work contract would be gone by morning. Freedom, he realized, did not mean safety. Behind him, a quiet voice spoke. "Mr. Cole." Evan turned slowly. Judge Celera Von stood beneath the shelter dome, no guards beside her. Without her ceremonial robes, she looked smaller, still powerful, still dangerous, but less distant. "You should not walk alone tonight," she said. Evan folded his arms. "Funny. Last time I followed that instinct, I ended up in court." A pause. "I owed you," Celera replied. "I do not forget debts." "Your honesty almost got you killed," Evan said. "And probably made things worse for both of us." She studied him carefully. "You understand the situation faster than most." "I've lived as a human on alien stations for 15 years, Evan said. "You learn patterns." Celera gestured toward a private transport hovering nearby. "Come with me. We should talk somewhere secure." Evan hesitated. Every instinct screamed trap. But another instinct, the one that had chased a thief into the rain, won again. The transport moved silently through restricted airspace. Below them, the city glowed like a web of stars. Celera stood by the window, her hands clasped behind her back. "You were framed because of me," she said at last. "I figured," Evan replied. "There is a faction within the tribunal," she continued. "They believe humans destabilize Krillin society. They fabricate cases. They erase reputations. Sometimes, they erase people." Evan leaned back in his seat. "And you're standing in their way." "Yes. And now I'm collateral." Celera turned to face him. "No. You are proof." "Of what?" "That humans are not weak," she said. "That you act without authority, without expectation of reward. That frightens them." The transport landed on a private platform carved into the station's inner ring. Celera led Evan into a secure chamber filled with floating holographic displays. Data streamed in alien scripts, maps, timelines, surveillance feeds. "This is what was in my satchel," she said. Evan stared. "Evidence." "Of corruption," Celera replied. "Illegal detentions. Modified legal algorithms. Human conviction rates inflated by 32%. Evan exhaled slowly. "That's genocide with paperwork." "Yes. And they know you have this." "They suspect," she said. "Now they know you are connected to me." Evan laughed humorlessly. "I really should have stayed home that night." A faint smile touched her lips. "You would not be human if you had." An alarm chimed softly. Celera's expression hardened. "They are moving faster than expected." Before Evan could respond, the chamber lights dimmed. Emergency shutters slid into place. A calm artificial voice announced, "Security breach. Tribunal override authorization detected." Evan stood instantly. "That sounds bad." "It is," Celera said. The door exploded inward. 3 enforcement units entered, tall, armored, carrying pulse weapons tuned for lethal output. Their insignia marked them as Tribunal Internal Security. "Judge Celera Vaughn," the lead unit announced. "You are ordered to surrender all data and submit for reassignment." Evan stepped in front of her without thinking. The unit paused. "Human, stand aside." "No," Evan said simply. "Evan," Celera warned quietly. "They already crossed the line," he replied. "Might as well redraw it." The units raised their weapons. Evan scanned the room in a fraction of a second. Power conduits. Gravity nodes. Emergency panels. Alien tech always assumed obedience. Humans survived by improvisation. He grabbed a loose control disk and slammed it into the floor panel. The gravity shifted. The enforcement units slammed into the ceiling as the field inverted. Celera reacted instantly, securing the data core and moving toward the exit. "Go!" Evan shouted. Weapons fired wildly. Evan ducked, rolled, and kicked a support strut. Sparks filled the air. One unit crashed into the wall, disabled. They ran. Corridors blurred as alarms screamed. Drones flooded the halls. Evan's lungs burned, but his mind stayed sharp. Humans did their best thinking when everything went wrong. They burst into a maintenance shaft. Celera sealed the hatch behind them. For a moment, there was only silence and heavy breathing. "You should not have done that," she said softly. Evan wiped sweat from his brow. "Yeah. But now you're alive." She looked at him, not as a judge, not as an alien, but as something closer. "They will hunt you now," she said. "Relentlessly." Evan shrugged. "They already were." Celera activated a hidden transmitter. "Then we move to the next phase." "Which is?" She met his eyes. "Exposing them. Publicly." Evan smiled for the first time since his arrest. "Now that," he said, "sounds like something humans are good at." Far above Krillin Station, encrypted messages spread through dark networks. The Tribunal's enemies mobilized. And for the first time in decades, a human stood at the center of a fight that would change alien law forever. The maintenance shaft smelled of coolant and burned metal. Evan and Celera moved through it quickly, guided only by dim emergency lights. Above them, security teams searched the official corridors, confident that no one would dare flee into the station's forgotten veins. They were wrong. Humans survived by using places no one else valued. "This way," Evan said, pulling open a narrow access panel. These shafts were built decades ago. Aliens upgraded the systems, but never the layouts. Celera followed without hesitation. She trusted him now, not because he was strong, but because he thought differently. They emerged into an abandoned service hub. Rusted consoles lined the walls. Old human maintenance markings still faintly visible. Celera looked around slowly. "This area is classified as obsolete." "Which means no surveillance," Evan replied. "Best kind of security." She set the data core onto a cracked table. If this information reaches the public, it will destabilize Krillin law. Good, Evan said. It needs to be. Celera hesitated. If we fail, humans will suffer retaliation. Evan met her gaze. They already are. Quiet suffering just doesn't make the news. She nodded once. Evan powered up an old terminal. The interface flickered, rejecting alien commands. See? Evan said. They never bothered updating human-compatible systems. Celera watched as his fingers flew across the controls. He bypassed locks, rerouted signals, masked the source. You are not trained in information warfare, she observed. No, Evan said. I'm trained in fixing broken things. Outside the station, encrypted transmissions burst into the void. Data streamed toward independent networks, trade guilds, neutral species courts. Evidence of corruption. Proof of manipulated justice. The system screamed. Alarms changed tone. They know, Celera said. Good, Evan replied. Let them panic. Security drones flooded the lower sectors. Access points sealed. Emergency laws activated. Krillin Station entered judicial lockdown. They're cutting external connections, Celera warned. Evan smiled grimly. Too late. A message flashed across the terminal. Data received. Verifying. For the first time, Celera exhaled. But victory never came quietly. The wall behind them exploded. Enforcement units poured into the hub, weapons glowing. Evan grabbed a power coil and hurled it. The blast knocked 2 units aside. Celera activated a portable shield, deflecting incoming fire. You should not be fighting, Evan shouted. I should not be silent, she replied. They retreated deeper into the station's underbelly. Evan led them through forgotten tunnels, manual ladders, gravity-dead zones. Humans adapted. Aliens calculated. In a zero-gravity shaft, Evan kicked off a wall, using momentum to collide with a pursuing unit, sending both spinning. He slammed the emergency override, restoring gravity at the perfect moment. The unit shattered against the floor. Celera stared at him. You planned that. Half a second ahead, Evan said. That's all humans ever need. They reached a sealed door marked with faded human symbols. This used to be a refugee relay, Evan said. No longer official. He keyed in a code. The door opened. Inside waited people. Humans. Dozens of them. Engineers. Dock workers. Data runners. Old pilots. They turned. Recognition spread. You're Evan Cole, someone said. The human who beat the tribunal. Evan blinked. That got around fast. A woman stepped forward. We've been waiting for this moment. Celera felt something shift in her chest. This, she whispered, is what they fear. The humans moved with purpose. Consoles activated. Antennas extended. Backup power surged. We've been collecting our own data, another human said. Small things. Patterns. Missing people. Celera placed the tribunal data core on the table. Then let's finish it together, she said. Across the station, public screens flickered. The truth began to play. Alien citizens stopped. Merchants stared. Officials panicked. Humans were no longer invisible. The tribunal declared Celera a traitor. A warrant was issued for Evan Cole's execution. But it didn't matter anymore. Because humanity had done what it always did when cornered. They united. Far beyond Krillin Station, neutral councils responded. Trade halted. Investigations launched. The tribunal's power fractured in real time. And for the first time, alien civilizations saw humans not as weak residents, but as catalysts. As forces of change. Evan stood among his people, watching the data spread. We didn't fire a single weapon at the galaxy, he said softly. Celera stood beside him. And yet you shook it. The station trembled. Emergency lights went dark. Above them, the tribunal prepared its final move. The lights on Krillin Station went out all at once. Not flickering. Not fading. Gone. Emergency systems failed in sequence, plunging entire sectors into darkness. Gravity fluctuated. Life support alarms screamed. The tribunal had made its choice. They're going to shut the station down, Silira said, her voice tight. If they lose control, they will burn everything rather than surrender it. Evan stared at the blackened screens. Including their own people. Yes. Silence followed. Then anger. Humans moved. Flashlights snapped on. Backup generators roared to life. Manual systems, old systems, were activated by hands that remembered how things worked before automation. They never learned redundancy, Evan said. They trusted perfection. Outside the relay hub, panic spread. Alien civilians flooded corridors. Children cried. Ships attempted to flee, only to be locked in place by station overrides. The tribunal broadcast began without warning. A towering alien figure filled every screen. High Arbiter Korath, ancient and cold-eyed. Order must be preserved, Korath declared. Human interference has corrupted Krillin law. This station will reset. Reset. That meant purge. Silira stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. He is threatening mass death. Evan nodded. Then we stop him. How? By doing the one thing they never expected humans to do, Evan said. Fix everything. Teams spread out. Humans crawled through vents, climbed shafts, rerouted power manually. They restored gravity sector by sector. Oxygen followed. Lights flickered back, not tribunal lights, but human-controlled ones. Alien civilians watched in disbelief as humans saved them. They're helping us, someone whispered. They're not running, another said. Security forces tried to respond, but their systems were locked out. Human hands had taken control of the old backbone of the station. But the tribunal wasn't finished. A deep tremor shook the station. Silira's eyes widened. They've activated the core failsafe. Evan felt his stomach drop. That'll overload the reactor. Yes, she said. In 12 minutes. Then we've got 12 minutes, Evan replied. They ran. The reactor chamber was massive, a cathedral of energy. Shields flickered. Heat rolled off the core in visible waves. Tribunal enforcers stood guard. Evan didn't hesitate. Humans charged. Not with weapons, but with tools. Power dampeners slammed into place. Cooling vents forced open. Manual overrides engaged. Enforcers fired, but humans kept moving. Some fell. Others took their place. Silira reached the control platform. Korath appeared via hologram. You have doomed this station, he snarled. No, Silira replied. You did. Evan reached the final control panel. It was locked. Tribunal code required, the system announced. Silira stepped beside him. She placed her hand on the scanner. The system hesitated. Then unlocked. The failsafe disengaged. The reactor stabilized. Silence fell. Across Krillin Station, power surged back fully. The tribunal's authority died in that moment. Koratha's image flickered, then vanished. Enforcers dropped their weapons. Alien citizens watched the truth unfold in real time. Humans stood exhausted, bruised, but unbroken. Evan leaned against the console, breathing hard. Silira looked at him, eyes bright. You saved millions, she said. We saved each other, Evan replied. Outside the chamber, crowds gathered, alien and human alike. Not cheering. Watching. Learning. For the first time, the galaxy understood something simple and terrifying. Humans did not need permission to protect what was right. And when pushed to extinction, they rebuilt the world instead. The silence after the reactor stabilized felt unreal. Krillin Station still stood. Its people still lived. And for the first time in its long history, the tribunal did not control it. Alien citizens gathered in massive numbers across observation decks, transit hubs, and public forums. Screens replayed the broadcast again and again, the proof of corruption, the moment the failsafe was stopped, the humans running into danger instead of away from it. No one could deny the truth now. Celera stood before the emergency council chamber, no longer wearing judicial robes. She wore simple attire, stripped of symbols. Evan stood beside her, arms crossed, exhausted but steady. The council was no longer only alien. Humans were present. Not as defendants. As witnesses. As survivors. High Arbiter Korath was brought in under guard. His authority meant nothing now. His systems were locked. His allies exposed. The galaxy was watching too closely. You destabilized centuries of order, Korath hissed, staring at Evan. Your kind spreads chaos wherever it goes. Evan stepped forward. No, he said calmly. We bring consequences. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Celera spoke next. Her voice carried without force, without fear. The tribunal claimed humans were a risk to stability, she said. Yet when this station faced destruction, it was humans who repaired it. When power failed, they restored it. When authority chose death, they chose life. She gestured toward the evidence floating in the air. This council will now decide whether law exists to control people, or to protect them. The vote was swift. The tribunal was dissolved. Its authority transferred to an interspecies oversight council, monitored publicly. Human conviction cases were reopened. The disappeared were named. Families were notified. Justice, delayed, but no longer denied. Days later, Krillin Station looked different. Not rebuilt. Awakened. Humans were no longer hidden in lower sectors. They worked openly alongside aliens. Mixed crews repaired systems. Children, alien and human, played together in public domes. Fear had cracked. Evan stood on an observation platform, watching ships move freely through open lanes. Celera joined him. You could leave, she said quietly. You've earned that. Yeah, Evan replied. But I think I'll stay. She smiled faintly. Figures. A pause. The council has offered you a position, she added. Human Systems Advisor. Full authority. Evan laughed softly. Still fixing broken things, huh? The most dangerous ones, Celera said. Below them, a human engineer guided an alien crew through a manual repair. No fear. No hesitation. This will spread, Celera said. Other stations. Other worlds. Evan nodded. That's what scares them. She looked at him. And you? Evan thought for a moment. I think humanity was never meant to dominate the galaxy, he said. We're meant to challenge it. To remind it that perfection breaks, and adaptability survives. Celera extended her hand. Not as a judge. As an equal. Evan took it. Far beyond Krillin Station, reports spread across alien networks. Humans intervene. Systems improve. Oppression collapses. Civilizations that once dismissed humanity as fragile began reassessing their laws, their assumptions, their future. Because humans did not conquer with fleets. They conquered with courage. With creativity. With the refusal to accept a broken world as permanent. And in the end, the verdict was clear. Humanity didn't just survive the galaxy. Humanity changed it.